Hi, my name is Audrey McKinnon. I'm 38 years old, and just 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with ADHD. It's a diagnosis I suspected since high school, almost as long as I wondered if I might be autistic too. But I'm not the typical stereotype of either, and just like many other girls, I was easy to miss. I almost failed art in grade 3 because of a crumpled up assignment I tried to take home and finish, then didn't, but I was easy to miss. I barely finished high school with 1% in English and 49% in math just weeks before the final credits were due, but I was easy to miss. I changed jobs, careers, and apartments as if change was water and crisis was air, but I was easy to miss. Just like many girls, I was found to be depressed and anxious or just dismissed in the doctor's office. In the real world, I was lazy, disorganized, and weird at best. At worst, I was a problematic, burnt-out employee and alcoholic, and as a consequence for my impulsive decisions and misjudgments, there were times I was homeless and hungry. Like many girls my age, just finding out they meet the criteria for ADHD, autism, or both. Only now, after decades of shame for failing so badly within the framework of neurotypical expectations, like many girls my age, I was misdiagnosed, dismissed, or missed altogether. And so that's what this podcast is about. It's a collection of stories to start correcting the narrative about ourselves because we deserved better. And it's not too late to start now. Okay, let's do it. Okay, so Jackie Haffner is 37 years old. She is also late diagnosed with ADHD and autism, and she joins me right now. Hi, Jackie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay.
So, Jackie, we're actually like almost the same age. So I feel like our stories are also going to have a lot of connection as well. But you were just diagnosed last year, I think, with ADHD first and then autism. I'm wondering if you can tell me what brought you to that point of saying, I this is something I have questions about. Maybe I have ADHD, maybe I'm autistic.
So I kind of struggled. I've struggled my whole life, like since I was a teenager, and I never really knew what was going on. And I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety when I was a teenager, and that kind of carried on since then. But I think it was probably in the last 5 years or so that I really, really started to struggle. Um, and there were things that I thought, like I always thought I was a late bloomer, and then there were things that I thought, I would grow out of, and but it actually felt like things were getting harder. And then I don't know, I learned about ADHD, and ADHD was one that I was kind of like immediately, I was like, okay, for sure that describes me. And then autism, it was a little bit, I wasn't quite sure about it. But I thought about that for quite a while, and then it was kind of years before I brought it up with my GP. And then after that, it took a couple years to get diagnosed. But yeah, now I'm being treated. I take ADHD meds, and it's made a world of difference. It kind of feels like it's been like a complete 180, kind of.
Awesome. I want to hear about that. But before we do that, I want to hear about you talked about that period of time before you started seeking diagnosis, but you suspected at least ADHD. Um, what prevented you from acting on that sooner?
Um, well, I've struggled with substance use, and so you kind of hear about how, medical professionals will think you're just like drug seeking, if you bring up ADHD, and then I already had kind of like my GP was well aware of like my substance use issues. So it wasn't really something that I was comfortable bringing up. I also, I don't always feel very supported by my GP, and I don't ever, I never really know what to expect when I talk to her. If she's going to be blunt and like short with me, or, you know, supportive and like curious. So that was kind of one of the reasons. And another thing was um, during the time that I was mainly alcohol, um, but like during the time I was drinking, you know, if I ever had something on my mind of like, oh, like what's wrong, like what is, I would always just think, okay, well, I drink a lot, and thinking,
Right.
okay, well, if that should be the first step, should be to stop that and then see what I'm like, kind of, because I would always
Yeah.
feel like I could attribute some of my issues to that. So that was another thing.
And did you end up tackling that in that order? Like, did you end up addressing the substance use before seeking diagnosis, or did that resolve in a different order for you?
Um, yeah, it was kind of, yeah, it was that tackling the substance use first, but it was also during that time. Like I did like an outpatient kind of treatment with um, with a doctor and a clinic and stuff. And I think a lot of um, through that process, it made me think even more that like I started learning about the link between ADHD and substance abuse, and learning more about like what ADHD actually is, not just like um, this is what people with ADHD experience, but actually learning more about like how like your brain's different and that kind of thing, and then learning about the kind of people with ADHD are at a greater risk for substance use, so, or
Hmm.
substance use disorder. So I think it was kind of, I started tackling that first, and then, you know, that took a while. It was a process, but it was
Yeah.
during that
And
time that I started, yeah, thinking more about pursuing a
looking at kind
diagnosis.
of root, did you start to see the potential for like ADHD as like part of the root of your issue with alcohol, or was that a connection you drew at the time?
Yeah, yeah. As I started learning more about ADHD, um, I definitely I definitely thought that, because I also felt it in other ways, like when I was younger, I had an eating disorder, and back then I had learned about the link between eating disorders and ADHD as well. Um, and then, you know, I also noticed that like um, during times that I was trying to like abstain from drinking, that there would be something else. I'd have something else going on, whether it was like um, a little bit of gambling, or um, food, or like shopping. There's always something.
And I want to thank you also for how vulnerable you're being in sharing this as well, because I know this is really, it's a, I mean, it's a layer of different sensitive subjects, really. Um, so I'm getting ahead of myself asking this, but I wonder, to decide to take that leap of faith and to share your story so openly, I wonder what makes this an important subject for you to share with other people.
Um, I think. For me, I think especially when I was going through the process of being diagnosed with autism, I know that um, I'm in a group on Facebook, and I'm in a bunch of groups on Facebook, but one of the groups is, I forget what it's called exactly, but it's autistic women and girls. So I know that during my process, like I had gone on and made posts asking specific questions of people and their experiences, and it was really helpful for me to kind of figure things out, and like also deciding if I should like actually pursue the diagnosis, like because it is really costly. It's very costly, and then and then beyond that, I know like sometimes someone will share their experience, and then I can I'll share my experience, um, and I don't know, just that them having someone say, "Oh, you sound just like me. This sounds exactly like me," and like it sounds like we have a similar experience. I think um, it's really valuable because when people think about autism, like most people don't really know what it is. There's a stereotype of what it is. So I think that um, it's easy for people who maybe have autism but it's not diagnosed. Like it's easy to just think, oh, that's not it. That can't be it. There's no way. But like when you talk to more people, then you understand like, okay, um, like actually it can look like this. Um, just most people haven't really been exposed to that before.
How would you say that, your expression of autism, how that expresses itself in you, how that differs from what you knew about the stereotypes before?
Like outward kind of, or like outward.
And inward too, because yourself more than anybody else. And I think that's important for people to hear as well as, what are those things on your inner world as well that, are related to that autism diagnosis and neurotype, that maybe you didn't correlate with the stereotype in the beginning.
I think people have like an idea of what autism is. Like the stereotype is like a little boy who doesn't speak and only eats chicken nuggets. And we know that like autism presents differently in women and girls, and a lot of people don't really know about that. Um, so I think like part of it is just that um, I just like seemed like too normal to be autistic, kind of. But like the other big part of that is that is we learn to mask from a very young age. So what people see isn't it's it's not necessarily like our true self. It's we could that like there are things that we learned from a young age that we have to hide, things we maybe things we shouldn't do and ways we shouldn't act. And I think that was like a really big thing for me when I was diagnosed is um, you know like it is so it's so much more like internal than external. But like of course the diagnosis criteria, it has to be um, like it's all about like what uh, a psychiatrist or whoever is diagnosing can see and recognize, right? But after being diagnosed, I really realized like how much of it is internal.
Yeah. What you're saying, I mean, what you're saying completely makes sense. It's making me think of, that old idiom, what are little boys made of? What are little girls made of? And the one for little girls is little girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice. Everybody knows
Yeah.
that, right? But I'm just thinking as you're talking, thinking about um, how that expectation for little girls to present in a way that's nice and sweet,
Mm-hmm.
um, it instills in us this an expectation to be bad advocate for ourselves too, right? Like
Absolutely.
to not even necessarily know how to recognize our own feelings because we're so used to hiding them. And when you said earlier that what a lot of people see on the outside is not actually a true reflection of what's inside, um, it's kind of sad. That's a really like it's a lonely experience to be hidden behind a mask and to have people connecting with somebody who's not really necessarily a complete reflection of who you are. So yeah, everything you're saying, I relate to on some level. Even with ADHD as well, I think there's a lot of things about ADHD, and maybe one of the reasons we're sometimes less wiggly because like girls learn to self-control, the moment we are developing a sense of who we are, I think.
Yeah, it's so true. And um, like when you're a young girl and you're expressing yourself, um, and the feedback you get, it really affects you. You know, it's um, it hurts. Like it hurts. I don't know. Wait, what am I trying to say? I don't know what I'm
Which
trying to say.
part? The part about being told, are you talking about positive reinforcement of kind of masking, or are you talking about negative enforcement um of your, I guess either way it's a reinforcement of masking, right?
Yeah, I was thinking more of like um, the negative enforcement. Um, but yeah, it doesn't feel very good. It hurts, and that's where you learn like, oh, I don't want to feel that way, whether you're autistic or not, right? But
Mhm.
um, you know, that's where you learn to kind of hide. I feel like little boys have a little, obviously, like there are like standards and expectations for boys, but I feel like really young boys they have a little bit more like uh, freedom to just kind of do whatever they're gonna do, kind of, and it's different for girls, at least from what I remember.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, like, yeah, I hear what you're saying, why you don't want to say too much because neither one of us is an expert in gender studies or something like that that would, that we can draw on some, some resources and studies and all that in order to really contextualize that. But I mean that has been my experience as well. I think our anecdotal experience is something that we can talk about as an experience, right? Like it's something that we've witnessed. And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily mean that it's a blanket statement that's true for absolutely everyone, um, but anecdotal experiences are a good starting point to look for, more of that. I think data backed information. So I think it's
It's
important to
it's
talk about that
also
too.
yeah, it's also like commonly mentioned when people are talking about, well, why do girls get missed? That's kind of what gets brought up is that young girls are they do have like different expectations placed on them. So I think it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. It's baked into our culture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of the things that I know is important for you to talk about as well, but I think is also a really important subject for everybody to hear about is the process of diagnosis itself. So I know you talked about there was a period of time where you suspected and didn't act on it. You were, trying to, very methodically take care of some other things and take care of underlying issues after. And then there's a period where you started to, pursue a diagnosis or, inquire, is this what's going on? Get some kind of medical validation for what you were wondering about. And you said that that took you a couple of years. So I'd like to hear more about, um, you know, the challenges you faced in accessing that level of healthcare, a diagnosis. What was that like for you?
Mm-hmm. Um, well, the first time I had brought it up to my GP, she had mentioned that she could refer me somewhere for like a to a public place that would like it would be funded, but the wait list could be a few years, or I could go private and pay for it myself. And then I did ask her to refer me, and then eventually I ended up just trying. I just felt an urgency, kind of. Um, so I decided to see someone privately. And then the first person I saw, I had a really, it wasn't a good experience. But she, right away, she's like, for sure ADHD. Well, she didn't diagnose me, but she was like, for sure ADHD. And then she was like, she didn't really think I was autistic, but she wanted to do more work together because, she said that um, girls often get missed because they're like so quiet and stuff like that. But but yeah, I had some. It wasn't a good experience because she, like, there were times that we made appointments and then I would go for my appointment and she wouldn't be available. There was another time that we booked a 2-hour appointment, and then when I showed up, I was there for like 20 minutes and she was walking around her office, packing up her briefcase and like putting files away and locking the filing cabinet and that kind of thing. While like just chatting with me, but like not really doing anything. It was kind of more of like a summary of like what we've already done. Um, and she would say the next steps, okay, well, I'm going to email you this and then you can fill it out and send it back to me, and I wouldn't get an email, and that kind of thing. So I ended up seeing someone else. But also, one another reason I stopped seeing her was because as we were working together, she made a few comments to me that kind of made me feel like I couldn't really trust her. I couldn't really trust her because, like, one of the comments she made to me was that like autistic kids don't get invited to birthday parties. And this is one of the questions that I took to the Facebook group because I was like, I just asked like, oh, has anyone been diagnosed with autism that has been invited to birthday parties? And another thing she said was autistic kids only eat chicken nuggets. And
Wow.
I just know that's not true. So I was kind of like, how can I trust what this person says. I know she's a professional, but I also kind of feel like someone can have 30 years experience of diagnosing people with autism, but if they've only worked with like little boys that don't speak and only eat chicken nuggets, and they don't have any experience with grown women, then they're not going to know when they come across one, right? But anyway, I ended up I just stopped seeing her because it was like pulling teeth trying to get any kind of anything going, because at that time I really wanted an official diagnosis for ADHD so that I could get treatment, because she had also talked about all the amazing things that could happen, like, some people struggle their whole lives with ADHD, and then I don't want to say that getting treatment solves all their problems, but it it just helps them so much. But I couldn't get anything really going there, so that was really frustrating. So I ended up going to like an ADHD specific ADHD clinic. I ended up getting diagnosed, and it was pretty straightforward. And then I took my diagnosis to my GP and started treatment. And then I decided I also still wanted to pursue the autism diagnosis. And I found someone, because after my first experience, I had told myself I want to find someone that, regardless of what they tell me, I know that I can trust their professional opinion. So I really
Yeah.
looked. I was really looking for that. Yeah, and I found someone, and I ended up being diagnosed, and I really didn't know. I didn't know if I was going to be diagnosed or not. Like, I was kind of shocked when she told me, but
Yep.
now it's been a year, and it seems so obvious. Um, it's it's like so obvious now, but I think that having that doubt before, it was like, I don't know. And also just learning more, like, I've learned more since I've been diagnosed, and I'm seeing like I see a counselor once in a while that works kind of a lot with autistic people, and then that's very validating because she'll tell me like what some of her other clients experience and stuff. So
Yeah. I think you touched on something really important there because on one hand you said, when I went in to get diagnosed, I was going to trust whatever she told me, but the the first step of that was also finding somebody that you trust. And the same goes when you're accessing therapy, where you're also screening for somebody who you can trust. I've done the same thing with having a therapist, looking for somebody who specializes in ADHD and autism, who can you know um and who I've had that conversation with initially and said, like, what are your perspectives on this, and understanding like this aligns with what I know to be true about these things, and and an attitude that feels supportive and non-stigmatizing, I think is really important too. And once you can go into accessing mental health care in that way from a place of trust, then you can trust what they're telling you in response as well, right?
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I think of it too. I had an experience when I was in my early 20s, and I was struggling a lot, and I was referred to see a psychiatrist. And I remember going to see the psychiatrist, and telling him all these different things, and he literally laughed at me, and he told me that I'm perfectly normal, and because at the time I was taking antidepressants, so he was like, I can talk to the doctor I was seeing and like stop taking, like, go through the process of not taking those anymore. So I feel like I kind of carried that with me for a long time. I was like, if I felt like I was different or there's something wrong, I would always think of that. Well, I did see a psychiatrist and they said this, so it must be within my control, kind of. It must.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that kind of it kept me from, I don't know, from like pursuing anything at an earlier age.
Yeah.
But I also, yeah, like from what you were saying of, the screening process and finding somebody you can trust is, at the time I didn't know about that. I was just like, this is a professional, and that's what the professional told me, so I trust them. And then after having more of these experiences, it's like, oh wait, actually, now that I have knowledge about these things, I can recognize, when someone is, I don't know if when she said autistic kids only eat chicken nuggets, if she meant, if she was lying to me. I'm sure she didn't mean it literally, but when she said that, I was like, okay, like now I know that's not true.
Yeah.
And like I worked with autistic people for a long time, and I just know it's not true.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, we are capable of assessing sources as well, sources of information, and deciding, um, does this seem like a valid source of, what is autism, what isn't autism? Um, I think it's important to also have some confidence in assessing that, and also acknowledging that I don't think you and I are talking about, watching a 5-second TikTok of somebody saying, "Here's 5 things that means you're autistic." It's the opposite. Where I think you and I are both talking about, being in online communities where you're seeing a lot of different examples of people who have the experience, or you're reading papers that are backed by lots of data and information, and that's the kind of thing that, that's where I draw on, what I can confidently say, okay, this is what I think I know about this, and of course the data is always
Mm-hmm.
changing as well, so I'm flexible in that way. But you can also hear when there's red flags, like when it sounds outdated. So, the chicken nuggets scenario,
Yeah,
that's a stereotype.
absolutely. Yeah.
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 Um,
And another thing, oh,
Go ahead. I think that our timing
sorry,
was
because
off, so I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you continuing to speak, and I cut you off. So go ahead.
yeah, no, because sometimes it'll like kind of lag,
Yeah.
and then um and then you'll and then I'll hear what you're saying, and it'll be like super fast, but I can still make out what you're saying, but it's just like, I guess, a connection thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. What was I gonna say? Oh, I was gonna say that um I worked with people with developmental disabilities. I did that for 13 years, and that was actually a huge, um, like, if I hadn't done that, I don't even know if I would have thought I was autistic and pursued a
Really.
diagnosis. But that was huge for me. Um, those experiences helped me like learn about like what autism is and what it looks like, and how it presents in different people, beyond like the kind of stereotype that, you know society has of autistic people, and also gave me insights kind of into myself. And one of the things I think about is, like, if you think of like a trait being described as like someone struggles with like cooking, I would think, oh well, I can cook. I've cooked before, so that can't be me. But it actually, that's not what it means. It means like the day to day kind of being able to do it on a continuous basis in a meaningful way, which was something that I didn't really quite understand when I would learn about like different traits and things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just stuff like that, that having that experience kind of um, changed the way I thought. And yeah, it was a really good learning experience.
Yeah, it helped you see the nuance in all the ways that that can present itself in somebody's life, right, in the real world. I think we do miss that when we
Yeah,
just hear, yeah, you hear like the questions on the questionnaires that you hear, and it's struggles with, like you said, cooking or something like that. Struggles with eye contact even, right? And I think sometimes you see that as a very black and white question. So, but what that can look like can be a lot of different things. And sometimes it can be more internal than external as well, and other people might not see it. And I think it can sometimes have effects later on in your day instead of like in the moment. I think, yeah, nuance. We're missing so much nuance from the conversation, which is why I want to talk to people like you, who can help add that nuance for people as well. I do want to hear also, before I let you go, you did say that your diagnoses, that your life made a 180, and I want to hear about how that happened, what that means for you.
yeah. I was just feeling so, like, I was so lost, and like I was just struggling so much. Even though like after quitting drinking and stuff, my life definitely, I guess my mental health improved and stuff. I was still struggling so much, and I felt like I need to find out what's wrong with me. Oh, now I know there's nothing wrong with me, but at the time I was like, I need to know. I need to get to the bottom of this. Um, and I think, like first of all, being medicated, like being treated for ADHD, I think is huge, because now I don't know, like I can do I can wash a dish, and like I can have a routine for getting ready for work in the morning and all these things, and I can focus on things. And um, I think when you want to do those things and you can't, and you don't know why, it doesn't feel very good. Um, so I think that's a huge part of it. But also I don't know. I feel like empowered by this information, knowing that I'm autistic. Because before, struggling with things, you were trying to learn about how can I solve this? How can I be better? A lot of the information out there, a lot of the advice out there doesn't work for like people like me. It's not specifically tailored to someone like me. Um, so I don't know. Just having answers, it feels good. And I think of all the things I've struggled with, like everything, like money, um, like relationships of all kinds. Like I don't know. Now I have I know why, and I can use this information to do better. And it's not going to look the way it looks for other people, but I can do it. And there's some things I'm not going to be able to do, but that's true for everyone. Sorry, I feel like I'm rambling now.
No, no, you're and you talked about I mean, you talked about all the little things that add up, like maybe being medicated or having context and having more tools in your toolbox helps with. But I also really appreciate what you said about empowerment, because I think that's been really big for me too, is I felt like I was like, just using the wrong technique all the time to try and solve my problems. And I just had no idea, just flailing. Whereas now it's kind of like, um, it's like I've been told this is how you tread water, like I can stay afloat because of that, because I can access the correct tools and I can access the right community, but also just knowing that, maybe some of the reasons that I'm struggling with any particular thing at a certain time is because of my ADHD, or yeah, because of my neurotype. It's not because I'm a failure of some kind, or like kinds of things that I had internals before. So I think empowerment is really big, and I really appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah. Um, I just I started a new job last year, and I want to say this because it's not like everything is easy now and everything's great. Like it's
Yeah.
not like that. It's still hard. I just now I I have, yeah, like you said, the tools in the toolbox to kind of get through these a little bit better. And when things are hard, I can, you know, I can problem solve them a little better. But I just started, I switched careers last year, and I had a really, really hard time. Like, I was like crying every day, and I was really, really struggling. So that's why I wanted to say, like, it's not always easy, but after a few months, I ended up disclosing my disability, and my employer was super supportive and got some accommodations in place, and it's going really well. And before, if I didn't know, I would have just been like, okay, not for me, and like quit, try something else, and then it's just another example of like being empowered by knowledge about ourselves.
That's really heartwarming, and I'm really happy for you.
Thank you.
I just want to say I really appreciate how intentional you are with your words, and how open you've been in this conversation. I know that it's really valuable. For me, it's been really valuable hearing other people's perspectives, and I know that's true about a lot of other people who are in the same situation, and so validating for other women who are also, have gone our entire lives without recognizing ourselves in this really like open way with other people who are going through the same thing, because we've all been walking around masked for so long. So yeah, I really appreciate you joining me for this. I really do.
Yeah, and one more thing, since you brought up masking again,
Yeah.
masking's exhausting. And one thing that my psychologist who diagnosed me told me was a lot of women like our age that end up getting diagnosed with autism is because they were so exhausted. The masking was so exhausting that it got to the point where like it was too much. They couldn't do it anymore. They were, I don't know, they just reached the breaking point, and that's when they ended up going and getting diagnosed. And it's not just the masking and hiding ourselves, it's also like it is so exhausting.
Burnout. It's burnout, right? How can
Absolutely.
you not burn out when you're putting that much effort in? And that's what a lot of people who
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see. They see you in crisis. They see maybe you take mental health leave like periodically, or you break down out of nowhere and they don't really know where it's coming from. And I think this is a good conversation for people who are, um, you know, who are not autistic, or not do not have ADHD, but maybe work with others who are, or live with somebody who does. Just to understand that sometimes that meltdown is coming on the tail end of a really monumental effort to try to appear like we're doing okay when we're not.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad that you're doing so much better, and yeah, it's great to have companions in this experience who've had similar experiences, and to I don't know about you, but I grew up feeling kind of lonely, really lonely. And
Hmm.
it's just really great to know that yeah, I don't feel so lonely anymore to hear these kinds of stories,
Hmm.
and it's even better to
Yeah.
hear that that you're doing well after everything that you've been through as well.
Thank you.